So for this week, I want to make a case for taking pictures in bursts. And by that, what I mean is setting your camera so that it's taking multiple pictures at a time and then shooting like 4 or 5 photographs in a row. There's certain things that you get from it that you just can't get any other way. So the obvious one, of course, is if somebody has their eyes closed. If they're blinking or something like that and you shot a burst, in one of those shots, their eyes are going to be open, and in another shot, their eyes may be closed. And then you can take out the one that you want with their eyes open. But there's some other obvious cases. In this example, this was at Fort Ticonderoga over the weekend, and you'll see that they're firing their guns. And you can see the smoke move from one shot to the next. But one thing that you wouldn't have gotten, or I would have gotten if you're not shooting in burst, is if you zoom in. You've seen a lot of movies where the guns fire and you see the smoke coming out of the barrel of the gun. But obviously, the smoke is also going to come out from where they shoot. And what we have here is the smoke actually curling around his hand from the shot. Now, if we take a look at the next frame, you'll see that most of the smoke is gone. But I would have gotten that if I hadn't shot that image the way I did, which is I usually shoot in a burst of 4 or 5 images and just go from that. Another example here, again, this is event photography. So we have these people standing and talking, and yet at the next cycle, they're now smiling. Again, something I would not have gotten had I not had the burst shooting going. In our next example here, we have action. You can see that their feet are moving. You can see them paying attention to their lead officer. And now they've made the turn. And being able to get that allows you to get feet moving. It allows you to get several things that each one of the photographs may be good on their own, or you just may find that there's one in there that's particularly better than the others. Again, we'll end here with the same group. You see them paying attention. And in the very next frame, they're all smiles. And you might say, well, this makes sense for event photography, but what about portrait photography? Your subject, your client, is not an inanimate object. You don't pose them, ask them to smile, and take a picture. Talk to the client and get them to smile, get them to laugh, get that real emotion from them while you're shooting. Now, I don't have my shutter sound on. I'm shooting silent, which means that my subject never knows that I'm taking a picture. So I can sit there and talk and watch their expression change and take a burst, and watch their expression change and take another burst. So I may have a dozen or more photographs of that same pose with different expressions on the person's face, so that it gives me options to choose. Now, back in the day when we used film photography, You are limited to 36 exposures to a roll of film. And I shot a wedding where I used 23 rolls of film. The problem when you've got something like that and you try to do bursts is with the film camera, you hear the click, 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 and it's expensive. Taking 23 rolls of film that then have to be taken in to be developed and be printed can be a costly process. Now that we have these digital cameras that either a DSLR or the mirrorless camera like I use, it allows us to take a lot more pictures. And I think in a way makes it easier for us to capture real life because it's not as expensive to get done what we need to get done. You're not losing things because you had to take a time to swap out your film. If you were unfortunate enough not to have a camera with an auto winder to it that would automatically advance to the next frame, you had to stop and advance your frame. It just limited what you could take. Now, I know some people will say, well, that meant you had to get a really good shot, and you did. If you wanted a shot like this, you had to wait until you saw it and then take the picture. You would have to wait till the person laughed at your joke to get that real emotion. And you get one picture of it. And yep, they laughed, but the picture I took, they closed their eyes. And that's the only one I've got. By shooting in burst, it allows you to get the moments around it. Now, I know some cameras are now talking about having things a pre-shot, where you start to push down on the shutter and it automatically starts taking a picture before you push down all the way. And that takes a little bit of the pressure off having to anticipate the actual moment that you want. But at the same time, it cuts down on your ability to anticipate. So just like we don't have to wait for that photograph and hope we get it right, just like we don't have to get that instant that we need to push the shutter right. The result is that we get to capture more real life, more things that we wanted to capture, but if we were limited by the technology, may or may not capture. Which, hey, all things considered, should give you greater appreciation for the people who used to shoot with the film cameras or had those ones that were just the portrait cameras that shot one large frame. There's one negative in there and you pulled it out. Think of how difficult that is to get that single shot. And you're only getting the one shot at it. So use the new technologies. Whatever you have in the camera, if it's this pre-shooting that they're talking about with the new Sony, if it's the bursts that you can do, and turn your shutter sound off. Because people associate the picture being taken with that shutter sound. And if they can't hear the shutter sound, they don't know that they're having their picture taken, even though they know you're there to take their picture. But it allows you to get those unforced moments. And by that I mean if you said to somebody, hey, okay, I'm going to take your picture, smile, they put a smile on their face that's not genuine. It can look good or it can be kind of forced. And by allowing the technology to carry through, that allows you as the photographer to talk to the person more, to get the real emotions out of the person, to get the real life experience that the person has to show through that photograph. That's what I got for you guys this week. I hope everybody can get out there and get some photographs of some people living their life and capture that moments for them in a meaningful way. And I'll talk to you guys all next week.